So I wonder if you are like me and you're sick and tired of all the endless guilt that come along with having a chronic illness. Guilt over all the times you cancel, all the times you can't do something you had promised, all the times well, just the guilt. So let's talk about it, and I might have some tips to get rid of at least some of it. I'm Lena Anderson. Welcome to the July Ask Lena. And I'd love to see if you're out there watching, say hi in the comments. Tell me about how guilt affects you, or if you found a way to deal with it. Let us know. Um, yeah, so I am experimenting again with posting this to both Facebook and YouTube at the same time. We'll see how that goes, and let's get started. So you've been there. I've been there. We make plans. You look forward to having a life, spending time with other people, and then you get a flare and you have to cancel again. And that's bad enough. But more than missing out on the fun, the guilt of letting people down or not being able to help or not being able to, be there yet again. Well, at times it's worse. It certainly lasts longer, you know. And every time you experience it, we're back to it's like it builds with each experience, right? And of course, there's also moments where other people heap on the guilt onto you when you can't do what you used to do, and we'll talk about that too. The guilt can range from a small moment, just a stab, that makes you wince when you have to ask someone to reschedule yet again, or it can be a guilt that makes it difficult to speak the words that I can't be there. I once had to, I once had to cancel out of being in a wedding party for a dear friend. And RA did that, and I couldn't even go to the wedding. So it was like an escalating. First, I had to cancel being a speaker at the ceremony, then I had to cancel speaking at the dinner, then I had to cancel at simply being there. And it was hard. It was one of kind of the defining guilt moments, guilt awful RA that's ruining my life moments I've ever had. And I cried a really long time that day. So, there's small moments, medium moments, and then there are the wallops. If you had to cancel something really big, like something that devastated you, let me know. And just want to say hi to Carol, who's out there watching. Thank you, Carol, for saying hello. And thank you for watching. So, the guilt of not being able to follow up on your own expectations or the expectations of others is a recurring theme in the chronic illness community. I've had, well, if I had $1 for every conversation I had, I would be coming live from an island in the Caribbean, maybe. Um, but it's almost every week I'll have a conversation about guilt and the many facets and faces of guilt, because like, guilt isn't just when you have to cancel, although that's a big one, but there's so much guilt, right? And I think it says a lot about the unspoken devastation of chronic illness, of the way it changes your life. Chronic illness doesn't just damage your body, it also damages your relationships, your ability to have a life and to leave the house, um, and to do all the things that come with being a friend or a member of your family and a member of your community. And it's rough. Because I use humor to cope. I like to say that I have an overactive guilt gland because that's what it feels like sometimes. Um, I've been looking into the option of having it surgically removed, but I've yet to find a specialist who actually, have signed up for it. But joking aside, how much does your chronic illness get in the way of what you want to do? Um, how often do you have to cancel? Let me know. So, but as I was thinking about this, some people might say overthinking. Um, I started with the dictionary because as a writer, I like to, like when there's a conundrum, I like to start with the definition of the word. So I looked that up when I was thinking about guilt, and that's kind of started this whole domino effect for me. Guilt is defined as the fact or state of having committed an offense, a crime, or a wrong, especially against moral or penal law, or a feeling of responsibility or remorse for some offense, crime, wrong, etc., whether real or imagined. And that's when I realized that guilt isn't the right word, because it's not a crime to cancel because your body needs you to rest. You didn't cause it. It's not a deliberate action. It's not within your control. So maybe guilt is just simply not the right word. Do you feel that you have? I think when you say you feel guilty, we say we feel guilty is because we feel some level of responsibility or remorse. But if you think about it, you don't have responsibility for this. You didn't do it on purpose, so therefore remorse doesn't belong either. Like you wanted to do this thing that you're now not doing. Your body did its best to support you, and the chronic illness had other ideas, which means so much as it rankles to not be able to control your chronic illness with the powers of your mind, is something we have to accept that this is a thing that happens, right? And that to me means that guilt isn't the right word. But what is it then? And I'll get to that in a minute. Just wanted to say that the first time I realized that guilt was the wrong word, it was like light bulb went off, like massive light bulb. Did you just have the same experience that when you realize that guilt is a sign that you've done something wrong? And this isn't wrong in that sense. Anyway, so let's talk about what is the actual feeling that you have. And I think it's a mix. It starts with anger at your illness, at your body for not pushing back and fighting it, at yourself, because your body is yourself, and your body. And when your body doesn't push back, the part of the you that made a commitment. Hang on, I'm getting tangled in my own words. But is this whole, maybe you get angry at the part of you that said, okay, I'll commit to this when you knew it was, and theoretical, we don't like to face it, but it's always a possibility you might not be able to make it. You might be angry at the other people who are involved, who do not understand or do not make room for you, for guilting you, for making it all about them, instead of understanding that you would absolutely be at this thing if you could. And for others not understanding that it's not a choice you're making. It's not because you have something better to do. You're not dumping other people because you're having fun elsewhere, because canceling due to illness is actually not fun at all. And then there's grief and sadness. And I think the grief of the loss of who you used to be, because that's like you can accept it on one level, but it's still ongoing whenever you get a reminder. The grief at the loss of health, the grief at all the little losses that happened all the time when once again that's something you can't do. And then there's disappointment. You're disappointed that you can't be at the thing, you can't do what you want, you can't be with the people that you miss, you can't have the freedom to up and go that you used to have. You're disappointed that you can't go out and have fun. You're disappointed that you can't help others the way you used to be able to, and the way that you want to help. And you're disappointed that your illness forces you to disappoint others. And that's usually the point where I want to stomp my foot and yell that it isn't fair. But as my dad used to say, as a joke, whoever promised you life would be fair? And then I would say, I distinctly remembered a fairy godmother. And then we'd laugh. And that usually got me out of it. It was his way to remind me that sometimes life isn't fair, but doing so in a gentle way that would help me see the, well, maybe not see the funny in the situation, but at least remember that there's also laughter, and laughter can help you cope. What's a trigger? What's the biggest feeling for you? Is it anger, grief, disappointment, all three? So what do you do? Like once you said, okay, so guilt, well, I haven't done anything wrong, so that's not the right word. So maybe what I'm feeling instead is this: anger, grief, disappointment. Um, Having the right word for what you're feeling can help you not drown or not feel as if you're drowning in an ocean of guilt. If you're grieving or sad, have a cry about it, express the emotion. If you're angry, have a rant. If you are disappointed, well, being disappointed is like, it's a big enough feeling in itself, but um, being disappointed can also be a motivator to find an alternative to this thing you wanted to do. And knowing how you're feeling can also help you start conversations with the people you care about. For instance, if you have to get cancel, right? Um, when you say, I feel so guilty I can't be there, that sort of is a cue to other people that you should feel guilty for not being there. And that changes that dynamic between the two. Now you've not only disappointed them, but you almost disappointed them on purpose, because guilt, like we know what guilt is. So it kind of triggers an association in our minds, right? But it becomes a completely different conversation if you say, I'm so disappointed and sad that I can't be there. Can you hear the difference in that conversation that then happens, and in the feelings that both of you have? Um, because if you say, I'm so disappointed, no, if you say that you feel guilty, then the other person is kind of in a situation where they have to say, it's okay, we'll figure it out. And hopefully just think, well, she just did it again. She canceled it again. She never shows up, right? Like it becomes a very negative situation. But if you say, I'm so disappointed and sad I can't be there, then the natural response of the other person, say, is to say, yeah, me too. And then all of a sudden you can have a conversation about how both of you are sharing this feeling of disappointment and sadness, because RA is getting in the way. And then now it is no longer you that's canceling. It includes an understanding that you wanted to do this, but your RA decided you couldn't, right? So it shifts. If there's any blame to go around, in a lot of people that will shift, even the subconscious understanding of what happened will be, instead of on you, it's on your disease. And that's what it should be, right? That's the thing that's causing this moment, um, where you can't do what you want to do. It's not you. And I think it's one of the biggest factors in fighting back against guilt, is understanding that this is not something you do on purpose. Like that you would be there, do this, etc., if your dog could. So by creating the closeness of both of you sharing this feeling of disappointment, um, it creates that shared experience, creates the room for the conversation, which creates hopefully more a better openness between you, um, a more understanding from the other person, and that then leads to maybe making some changes in that relationship. That means you can be open about your needs without feeling bad, and B, maybe not have to cancel quite so often, because there's always options. Now, and that brings me to solutions. Is any of this ringing a bell? Like, is this sounding like, this might change at least some of those moments? Like, it doesn't work for everything, but, and I am specifically picking like a moment where you're canceling something, but because I think that's one of the biggest sources of the guilt, but it can be applied in any moment where you feel guilt, right? So let's talk about solutions. And I got two. Number one is, and I've mentioned this before, is one of my favorites, which is having a plan A, plan B, and plan C. That plan A is you and your friends make, or you and your best friend make plans to go out to dinner and a movie, and then the day comes and you're wrecked and can't go out. But plan B is to do takeout and streaming a movie at your place, because then you don't have to leave your home, and somebody else brings all the fun, right? So that this way you're still getting together, might even be cheaper. But even if it's not cheaper, it's like you're still getting together, because the goal of the situation wasn't dinner and a movie. Well, it was a sub goal. The goal of that event is to get together and enjoy time as friends, right? Now, what if you're feeling so bad that you can't even have, like, there are days where the thought of having someone over is just, I can't. I'm too tired, right? Then plan C is each of you have dinner in, or leftovers or whatever, at your respective homes. And then maybe the date ends there, or maybe you find a way to stream, that you do all this via Zoom. I think I forgot that. Zoom, WebEx, whatever you want, Google Meet. And maybe you stream a movie that you can then share, and both of you are watching it, but you can still talk, right? And obviously something like that doesn't work for someone's wedding. But you'd be surprised how many moments you can modify once that you're aware that maybe you'll need some wiggle room. And that brings me to number two. But first, I think it's really important to not be rigid. There are, most things can be changed. Like, for instance, I was going to a meeting tonight, and this kind of meeting, I don't know what happened to my voice. And it's the kind of meeting where it's really important to be there in person. It's a bit of a celebration. But we now have a summer wave here in Toronto, and that means I'm not going to be around a lot of people. So I talked to the organizer, and we're going to do a Zoom link, and so I can still be part of it. It's not the same, no, but I'm still part of it, right? So my other favorite is actually my sister-in-law's, aka Medicated Babbling, a podcast that's on a bit of hiatus at the moment, but really good. There's some past episodes that you can listen to, and she's on Facebook, Medicated Babbling. She lives with unpredictable and chronic migraines that they come out of the blue. There is, I think, in her situation, I think it has taught me what true being held hostage by your condition is, because when she gets a migraine, her only option is to take medication and go to bed, and then she loses a day, and then lose the next day to recovering, and this happens on a rotation, right? So whereas I might be able to attend by Zoom, as I am tonight, she wouldn't be able to go at all. But if she's invited to something that requires participants to do something like a potluck, a baby shower, whatever, she's very open about her. We like to call it that she's unreliably reliable, because if she's well, she's like a guarantee, but she's unreliable in her ability to be reliable, right? So basically, she'll say to the organizer something, saying, "Don't assign me to something essential." We all understand that if we're having a family thing, we're getting together, whatever, it's always, unless she gets a migraine, and that's just given. But with other people, she probably has to be more open about it and say, "I get migraines out of the blue, and and I'm out. So don't give me something essential to do. Like, don't be, like, if you have a baby shower, don't make her be the person who brings the balloons or the presents or whatever, that you assign her something that's optional, like a quinoa salad or something, right? And it's a really good way to deal with it. Like, it's still disappointing for her to miss out, but it means that on top of that disappointment and sadness and the grief, you also then are not carrying around this part that where you know that you're letting people down because your part was essential. And in retrospect, if you're looking at my wedding situation, or my friend's wedding situation, what had I realized how bad things were, which I didn't at the time I committed to it, I would have said, I can't be a speaker at the wedding, I can't be a speaker at the dinner, I will come if I at all can, right? Because then you don't have this disappointment upon disappointment upon disappointment, right? Of course, flares can come out of the blue, so it's not like you should say it depends on your state of health, right? Right. And like, I think in my sister-in-law's situation, um, she has to say right now, don't assign me to something essential. I'll probably commit to something because my ups and downs are not as extreme, right? So it depends on your situation. And being open about needing a plan B or C, or being potentially forced to be unreliable. It manages expectations, both of your own and those of the other person. And it also means that you're not going to, especially if you use medicated babblings tip, you're not going to destroy the event if you can't be there, right? And that's important. So do you think this might change how you talk to people when you have to cancel? Do you think you can use this in your life? Let me know. And for more on guilt, check out the link I put in the box above or below, depending on whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, because I have a post on more with about guilt. So thank you so much about watching. Thank you so much about watching. Okay, need a nap. Thank you so much for watching. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. See you next time. Have a good day.